You've all sacrificed so much to be here and be a part of this thing we're doing.
This crew is made up of couples.
It's the first ever large-scale colonization mission. We're making history here. You hear that?
What?
Nothing.
Covenant, do you read me? Covenant, come in.
What's happening?
Hello, hello, hello. This is the Next Reel's Film Board on Rash Pixel FM. Each month, a gang of thugs gather together to spoil a movie that just opened in theaters. I'm Steve Sarmento, and I guarantee you that I am not a product of the Wayland Corporation. Tonight's Film Board is communicating across the vast American West Coast, and because we don't have any atmospheric storms, we hopefully have clear communications tonight with our chief medic and most likely to die first, Pete Wright.
We don't leave Earth to be safe, Steve.
And don't disobey his orders, Captain Andy Nelson.
Excuse me while I pull these alien embryos out of my throat.
Before we go any further, go check out all the fun stuff about this show and its sibling shows at thenextreel.com. Go subscribe in your favorite podcast app or join us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And you can join the ongoing conversation of the Next Reel crew and fans over in Slack if you sign up to support us on Patreon.
Yay, Patreon!
So tonight, the crew of the colony ship Covenant, bound for a remote planet on the far side of the galaxy, discovers what they think is an uncharted paradise, but it is actually a dark, dangerous world. And when they uncover a threat beyond their imagination, they must attempt a harrowing escape.
Ooh.
Is that what we got?
You know, like Prometheus, this one really frustrated me. I think it frustrates me so much because there are so many really interesting elements in the film that could be doing something great and making a really fantastic film that gives you a lot of things to think about, excites you, thrills you. But in the end, I don't think that it gels at all. And it was a frustrating watch. And weirdly, it was also just very uninvolving. And I think that may be the thing that frustrated me the most is the fact that I didn't even have like a real thrill out of it. At least in Prometheus, I had the scene where she was doing the abortion or the extraction, whatever you're calling that, and it really had me on the edge of my seat. This one had a couple moments, but in the climactic moments there was nothing ever that got me really thrilled. So on the whole, I left this feeling a little frustrated.
So I was right in my prediction that Andy's chest was going to burst open in anguish. Pete?
I'm there too. I think this movie makes me more sad than anything else. There are a lot of things in here that I really enjoy as individual elements, and that's all great. But the way I hear it from various interviews, with people in and around Ridley Scott and his team, and Ridley Scott, I think he even said this himself, that they added the alien to this film because there was so much blowback against Prometheus for being largely alien free, right? I mean, it just was a very different movie than what fans expected coming off of the 4 other alien films in the universe. And I get the feeling that was probably pretty frustrating for, Scott and team, that they were trying to ask some different and bigger questions of the universe. And it feels a lot to me like Ridley Scott's sort of midlife crisis movie. Like, we're going to go ahead and process the meaning of life here and where did we come from and dig some big holes for ourselves and try to get out of them. And due to that blowback, we come back to this, let's shoehorn more aliens into it. And so for me, this movie was very much a double feature, right? There's the big questions part of the movie that follows on Prometheus, and there's the alien stuff. And the biggest sin of the movie, and the thing I keep hanging my hat on, in spite of all the stuff I actually do like about it, is that it wasn't scary. And I feel like that comes with some weight because I'm a guy who usually gets scared at scary movies. So I feel like I should know. And I was not scared at this movie.
I went with my brother and my father-in-law, and my father-in-law he was so pumped. He was ready for something that was going to be really scary. And at the end, he's like, it was sort of milquetoast. And I have to agree. There wasn't that edge of your seat suspense. And it set up all these things of all the tropes. Is I reflected and I thought the basic, sort of archetypical story they're telling is like the mad scientist. You've got the crew that crash lands on a, strange place. There's, a weird environment and dangerous animals after them. And there's this mysterious savior that lures them back to his fortress. And then they discover he's not really a nice person and he's using them for his experiments and they've got to flee and escape. And I thought that's a story that's been told a lot, and it didn't do a whole lot that was do with it other than layering this alien framework on it. I didn't have that many jump scares or suspenseful, terrifying moments, which I expect from an alien film. And we get a lot of this philosophical piece around David that felt like, I think you're right, Pete, a different story. And I think that's the story Ridley Scott's trying to tell. And I think he tried to appease the audiences by like, well, I'm going to answer the question of where the alien comes from. I mean, we get that question now resolved without a doubt. We know where this iteration of it comes from finally, but it wasn't as satisfying as I think everyone was hoping that it would be. I think it's a step up from Prometheus, but it's still not, the fan pleaser that I think everyone hoped it would be. And I think you're right. Ridley Scott's got some plan for what he wants to do. And I don't think it's the direction that the fans want, from his movies anymore, or at least this franchise.
Yeah, it feels very much like he is trying to shoehorn this like philosophical conversation between man and their creator. And, this is something that he's really trying to, that Scott wants to talk about. And I just keep getting a sense that he's really interested in that idea and that theme. But I don't know. I'm struggling with the fact that he's now kind of pushing all of that into the world of Alien and making those themes fit here, because I just don't know how much I like that. They're interesting ideas, the concepts about the creator and kind of the way the role that David ends up taking in this particular film, I think is pretty interesting. And Michael Fassbender, certainly as David and Walter, might be my favorite thing in the whole film, and just the conversations they had in the scenes. Very interesting stuff going on there. But again, that's the stuff that I found interesting, but it didn't make for a great horror movie. And I just don't think that I don't know. I'm frustrated that Scott not only returned to this world that he started off in 1979 with Alien, in Prometheus, and now this, but also that he's planning on doing like 2 or 3 or 4 other films to kind of continue. And I don't know, it's just very frustrating.
Yeah, that's a point that I feel like I really want to hang on, because this is the irony. The stuff that I feel like didn't belong in an Alien film is the stuff that was the better part of this movie. Right? Like, I would absolutely go see a movie with Michael Fassbender talking to himself about the meaning of life. Like, this performance hung on him. And the cast, in fact, I've been reading some critiques about the cast being bloated. There's too many people, whatever. I actually didn't find that was bothersome to me. It was a little chaotic at times, and I feel like they had to resort to some rather sort of crazy techniques to involve everybody on screen. It got a little bit too busy from time to time, but I didn't find myself totally distracted by that. The challenge that I had was when they really tried to amp up the horror part, like the thriller part in the end of the second act, third act, and it just became a disaster, and it just sort of fell apart in spite of great work that these people are doing on screen, right? I feel like I would see both of these movies, but when you slam them together, it's a high jump, low ceiling moment.
Well, I think the problem with this is, going back to the source material, you had, the original Alien film was sort of like the closed room suspense, horror film of you've got everybody confined in a finite space and there's a monster there, and that's all it's about. But now we're trying to create this much larger universe that, logically makes sense with all these other films that other directors and writers have cobbled together in the 80s and 90s. And the audience is looking for a way for, how does this all make sense? What is this universe? And we're creating this like cinematic universe franchise off of material that I don't think ever asked for that. And the strength of Alien is about those characters and not about this larger universe and these big philosophical questions. It was about how these different people react in this situation and whether they're going to survive or not. And there's elements of that in here that are interesting. I like some of the dynamic of the crew, because we've got married couples on there because they're going to colonize this new planet. So you've got, people that are in relationships with the other so they can populate this new planet. And I found myself, after watching it Friday night, going back online to look at all the sort of like prologue videos, because I avoided all of that before going to see the film. And there's interesting scenes with this crew on the ship before they go into deep sleep. We see
with
more,
Elizabeth.
I think we see like James Franco has more screen time in that prologue than he does in the actual film. And you get the sense of the dynamics of the crew, of, he is the captain. We see his role there, and we get a little bit more of a sense of Orem as sort of the next in line, and his relationship with the crew, of how he doesn't fit in. It starts there, and we're missing all that in the film. And it leads me to wonder about how this all fits together, because you've got the film, but you have all this supplemental material that I think is maybe just marketing fodder, but there's so much interesting story and character there that I wish made it into the film, because for me, that's what I liked about Alien so much, is those interpersonal dynamics between, you've got, Tom Skerritt and Sigourney Weaver as sort of the command structure, and then you've got the blue collar guys, and that is interesting. And we have a little bit of that here, but it's left, very flat. It doesn't give us an opportunity to care about these people as much as I think I wanted to.
The thing that I find so frustrating with these last couple films, Prometheus and this, is the characters aren't written very well. They're idiots. And it's just, I don't understand why they're having such a hard time writing characters that make sense and do things that are logical. In the original films, the characters were doing logical things within context of what they were setting out to do, and I enjoyed that. Here, I feel like they're struggling with trying to give characters idiosyncratic quirks or things, but it's just making them dumb. I mean, if you're going to start exploring a new world, you're not going to be flicking cigarettes out, and just they do these stupid things, and it's just like, who are these freaking idiots? You're a research party. You're not going to light up as soon as you land. I mean, you're learning about a new environment. It's just the same thing in Prometheus. Just makes me pull my hair out.
You shouldn't do that at all.
No,
I've already. Look, I'm done.
So you've seen this movie before. Look, Alien, and again, I've already said it. The number of people in the cast didn't necessarily bother me, but I think it's important to note that Alien, the intensity of Alien hung on the fact I would suggest that there were 7 people in that core cast, right, on that ship. There were 7: Dallas, Ripley, Lambert, Brett, Kane, Ash, and Parker, and then Alien, right? So, and I guess you could include Mother, but really 7 of the core characters that we care about, that we get to know, we get to understand, we get to really spend time with them and invest time with them. In this movie, I count 14, and that gets us to, through Rosenthal, I'm counting Fassbender twice, right? So that's a lot of characters that we have to, that we are expected, I think, and intended to develop some sort of a relationship with. But I think that's one of the places where the film fails. It is extremely rushed to move these people through the narrative. And so when we lose them, when they start falling off the radar, I don't think we've had enough time to care about any of these folks. So I really struggled with that. Just feeling like they were trying to just shuffle me through. It felt much more like a ride at Disney, than anything else. Like, just get through, get on the ride, enjoy it, and get out, and never really have time to invest.
But it's 2 hours and 2 minutes.
But see, that's what I mean. There's too many people. If you're going to expect us to invest in each and every one, but they gave all these people names. That's too many damn names.
Well, it's a lot of people, and I would argue that they're not wanting us to invest in all of them, but I feel like we're not investing in the ones that we're at least supposed to invest in. And I think that's my issue I have. Because, I mean, if you look at Aliens, I mean, there were a lot of characters in that one. I mean, we had so many military people that, when Warspowski all of a sudden gets killed, you don't know, you can't remember who Warspowski is, but it's you just know it's another name. But somehow I end up caring about so many of the characters in the Aliens film. And I care about so few of them here, and it is still a large cast. I just don't think they're written very well.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. I think the context is different when you're talking about this ship full of married couples. Like there is a different kind of relationship that we are coming than when you have like a bunch of soldiers. We have our primary characters, and there's one main soldier that we need to understand, and there's one administrative officer. The core cast that we really care about in Aliens is much smaller than 14. They gave everybody names. Everybody had kisses in the corner. Like anytime you see a couple kiss and it closes up on them, one of them's going to die, and you should be able to keep track of that. Like it was just telegraphed really poorly, and I think that I really think they wanted us to keep track of more than we were capable of keeping track of. It was just too big.
Let's step back and sort of, I guess, look at what this story is. If we go back, because we're all in the middle of everything trying to connect it back to Alien. But if we look at the story that they're trying to tell, so if we look at our first shot, which is we've got an extreme close up of David's eye, and we are now back pre-Prometheus. We're at the creation of David. That's where we start. We've got a short scene there, and then our closing shot, we've got David again, and it's really his story. I think between Prometheus and this, we're getting an arc about that character, and everybody else is, either cannon fodder to be chewed up by the alien. I think that's really what Ridley Scott's trying to do here, and he's using the familiarity of the alien universe to sort of create some dynamic tension and action sequences. But it's really about where David starts, the mission that he's given at the beginning that we see here of trying to find humanity, trying to find its creator, and he takes that mission and just keeps it's what's propelling him through both of these films.
Well, and it's, of course, maybe a little on the nose, but of course, at the very end, as we end, he's playing Wagner's Entrance of the Gods into Valhalla.
Yes.
As he has now become the creator, right?
Yes, exactly. So I looking at, okay, what is this story trying to tell? Because anybody that's, sort of in between that is, there may be some interesting stories to them, but it's not really what our takeaway, I think, is, or what the intended takeaway is. What's this larger arc?
So do you think that Scott intended us to keep that narrative or that central sort of question about David and his journey to ascension? Do you think Scott intended us to keep that in mind through the course of our 2-hour experience with these people?
I think it's pretty transparent. I mean, it seems like it's right there in front of us the whole time.
I mean, we get that as our opening scene, and then he disappears for the bulk of the film. When he shows up as our mad scientist, we sort of see what he's been doing for these past 10 years, and I think that brings us, to bring us back around to what his quest and objective is. Sort of as this now deranged scientist on this mission to create sort of the perfect, creature, and what his purpose is. But I think all the philosophical pieces in there, I think it just muddies the waters, because I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about it. I don't feel like there's a point of view that I'm supposed to feel. Is David this, somebody we're supposed to root for as carrying on the mission of, the whatever engineers, if they created humanity and humanity's created David, and it's sort of a continuous improvement process? Are we always creating something better than ourselves or striving to? What does it say about what he's created, the xenomorph? How are we supposed to feel about that? What is it saying about, man's quest for meaning, artificial intelligence? We see the difference between David and Walter, how they take away that ability to create because they're too human. So in the Walters, they don't have that ability to create. And I just don't feel that there's enough to give me the cues as to how I'm supposed to feel or what he's trying to tell us about this David story arc.
That's really what I was thinking. I think that when I asked the question, does he want us to keep this in mind the whole way across the narrative of the film? I think you're right. I think it is. It's the elements are in front of us, but it's clumsy, and it's clumsy enough that it doesn't feel like he has sewn up the story by the time we reach the closing shot of David walking through the colony ship, and like we've been through an awful lot to get here. But I still feel unsatisfied at the path that I took. It was not a rewarding path.
No, it's him taking this path of storytelling that he wants to do. I mean, and yeah, I think that is exactly what he is intending, what Ridley Scott is intending in telling the story this way. But I don't think it's working, and I think it's going to be very frustrating as this series continues. He has, I think he's made a big stumble in taking the George Lucas midichlorian route to tell these stories.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And that's I think that's just for me, it's just getting more and more frustrating as he continues.
What does work in this film? Because I know I enjoyed pieces of it, and Pete, I think you said there are parts of it that you enjoyed. So, I mean, we've been hammering on the flaws in this film, but what are the things that are working well in the film that makes this? Is it entertaining? Is it something you're going to return to? What does work, or is it a complete waste?
There are interesting things. I mean, the stuff between David and Walter, I think there's some interesting conversations to be had there. I actually think that the scene I found most interesting in regards to one of the xenomorphs or the neomorphs, whichever one it was, is when Billy Crudup's wife takes that one idiot back to their little drop ship. And you've got that just kind of tense situation between the three humans there as that alien is birthed. That I think there was some interesting stuff going on there that could have been a little stronger, but I still enjoyed that. Some of the characters weren't too bad. Danny McBride was kind of an interesting bit to throw in here, and I liked that. I like that there is this bigger world that is being developed. I like Pete said, it feels very much like there's two movies happening here, and I kind of want to see both of them, but as separate films. And I think that's what's frustrating. I liked the bits of David dropping the canisters of the virus onto this society of these engineers. I mean, I want to see more of that stuff.
I want to talk about that scene because that really pulled me out of the film, because David was narrating that to Walter about what happened, 10 years ago, and we're basically getting a flashback. But what we're not getting what David's told us. We're getting what actually happened. That he dropped the canisters, destroyed, all the engineers, and it felt out of place because I'm like, everything else is we're there as like omniscient viewer, and all of a sudden we're now like in David's memory of what actually happened, which was sort of jarring for me because it would make sense if what I'm being told matches with what I'm being with what I'm being shown, but I'm getting something different, and to me it felt, I don't know, a bit contrived. Like this was a scene that maybe had been intended for the beginning of the film, maybe more chronological to see what happened, but that scene really bothered me because it just didn't fit with how the rest of the film was presenting itself.
Well, and I should clarify. I'm not saying that these scenes didn't bother me in one way or another. Okay. That scene certainly did bother me for the exact same reasons. But what was happening within that scene, I found so intriguing. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening there, and that's why I'm frustrated with the film, is because I like so many of these pieces. I just don't think they were used well.
This is a problem I had with that scene too, and it's overall with the film and the franchise that I'm really finding myself struggling with, and that is, I wonder what it would be like if we were introduced to a world in any of these alien movies where it was finally clear to the universe and beyond that in fact these creatures exist and they're horrible, right? Every single movie is a stinking origin story, and I'm tired of it. Like, oh, look, the ship is traveling through space, but we've got to check out that one thing right there, and there's aliens on it. This is an incredibly familiar thing, and I found myself really struggling with it. What I liked about that scene, and what I found hopeful about that scene, is that there was a point in the prequel verse that, in fact, a civilization knew all about this stuff, right? That this was a thing that existed in the world. They knew what they were doing, whatever they were doing that came off of Prometheus. Is there ever a chance we'd get to explore more of that? Because that I'm interested in. And then David kills them all, and now we don't get that. And so I'm really frustrated by that. I would love to see the next Alien universe or the Alien story start with a story where we don't have the Cassandra. I mean, that was Ripley's entire gestalt, right? Was the Cassandra complex. She's the only one who knows what this is, and nobody believes her until it's too late. They all think she's nuts. That's her thing. Now, what is the new thing that we're going to get? What is the new thing that's going to give us something interesting to look at in this world? And this just every corner it turned, it didn't execute on that. Now, what did I like? I do want to get back to that question. I really think that the character performances, in spite of script challenges, in spite of the having too many characters to actually feel like we have an emotional connection with, the character performances were really quite good. And in fact, Michael Fassbender, as you guys have both said, I mean, Michael Fassbender was terrific in this. He was really interesting to watch. Had he not been in it, I would have really struggled, I think. And I was deeply surprised by Danny McBride. I don't know what I expected, but I really enjoyed it. I thought he was really fun to see and hear. He was like, what was the guy in The Abyss with the big bearded guy who ran the crane? And you know what I'm talking about. I liked him too, and it's a very similar kind of character trope, and I really enjoyed it. I think a lot can be said for the characters for the cast. The
whole David and Walter performances for Michael Fassbender really carry the film and make it worth seeing for that. Although because he's doing a British accent and an American accent. And when I hear him do his American accent, I'm immediately cast back to, the movie Frank because of the American accent there. And it bothered me at first. I'm like, why does he sound like he sounds familiar? Oh, wait, Frank. Okay. He's not going to start singing and put on a big paper mache head. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I listened to a Nerdist podcast, and he was being interviewed with Danny McBride. And that was so crazy because I don't think I've ever actually heard Fassbender speak in his native accent. And it is not like anything I've ever heard him do on screen because it's not British. It's Irish. Like he's Irish, but born in Germany, moved to, so I mean, he's been all over the place. And so his accent is a complete hodgepodge. And I think that is probably what he's got an incredible ear, and that gives him, I think, a lot of flexibility to do these things. And in spite of how much we think Walter sounded like Frank, he sounded different than David every scene. And that is that we absolutely have to call that out because that's really hard to do.
Yes. No, I mean, I think that's just, his, expertise, in everybody, in Prometheus, for him to play, sort of the synthetic, the android, and how he pulled that off. And then now to do two variations on that is really interesting because you've got Walter, who's sort of your utility, droid there. And then David, who's that almost like Hal, from 2001, the one that's gone a little off, and doesn't quite realize that he's gone askew, sees, logic in his madness. But there's a sort of that calmness under the insanity that makes him scary, which I think comes through really, really well in this. I
will say regarding him, though, that I was bothered that they also pulled the cliche it's a fight. But we're going to cut away before we know. Yeah. And then it's like, and then it was so infuriating because it's like, well, of course it's going to end up being David, even though he had to cut his arm off so he looked like Walter and fake it. It just sets this thing up that is silly. And, I was talking about it with my wife afterward. I'm like, if they're going to pull that, I mean, it's such an obvious trope. Why don't they at least just show it to the audience so we know, but then the other characters don't, or something? So at least it just felt different and not just like the tired old cliche that it was.
I wrote in my review that Covenant, particularly in the third act, is a poker game where all the players are holding their cards face out. Like, this film telegraphed everything especially in the third act, every corner. And please, how many times do we have to off another cast member on the kill floor? Like, the number of shots back to a character with their gun drawn, coming through the curtains into the little laboratory, the biosamples, like underground cave of horrors. I was bored by that. The number of times people went to, okay, it just wasn't sinister.
No, it wasn't at all. But that was the thing about the whole film. It never felt sinister. I mean, the other Alien films had me on the edge of my seat. This one, nothing. It was flat. I mean, you get that last bit of the alien. I don't know what happened to Catherine Waterston's character, but all she goes from, like, having her husband killed to she's just a tough badass who's going to take care of this thing. And, it wasn't interesting. I mean, she has no qualms, not a second thought about running out onto the top of the ship to try to shoot it off. Likewise, when they're tracking it down in the hallways, I mean, she's just running at it full steam ahead. There's no fear. There's nothing. And it just takes everything out. I mean, it's really flat the whole time. That, though, is a symptom of just terrible third act, right? I mean, because for the most of the movie, I actually found I liked her. I find she has like an intense kind of a charisma. I think she was doing good stuff on screen. I like her sort of the way she was interacting with Billy Crudup. And so I was really interested in his sort of his role, kind of being the faithful leader and their interaction. But you're right. I mean, as soon as we get into the big final set piece, it just goes all crazy and absolutely insincere and unbelievable.
They try to turn her into Ripley in the third act, but early on, when she's got her, when they have their dispute about whether to continue on or to follow this, mysterious signal to this planet that, for some reason wasn't on their scans, but looks like a better option for colonization. And she's like fervently objecting, and he's like trying to do something to keep the crew happy because he doesn't have their allegiance. He gives them a command. They violate his command. It's not a big thing, but you can tell it rubs him the wrong way. So he wants to do something to win them over. And she's like flatly refusing. And I thought, what is her big objection to this? And I had to go back and realize, okay, it's this whole thing with her, commitment to her husband to build the cabin on the lake on there to sort of continue that legacy. We had to give her some reason to push back against this. So there was some conflict about whether or not to go there so that, he could have his moment of like, oh my gosh, I made this huge mistake. He's questioning his leadership abilities. Again, there's the character pieces, but then by the end it was like this really sharp cut to we're now, Act 3, we're back on the main ship and, oh, wow, there's an unknown, presence on the ship. Let's go through the hallways and hunt it down and shoot it out the airlock again in a different way. It was just a retread of that. And to me, it was, they tried to leverage her knowledge of the terraforming machine or tractor or whatever it was, that was sort of her.
It was ridiculous. My turf.
Oh yeah, exactly. So it was, clearly something she was responsible for, because we see earlier on, she's got to secure it. And, okay, we're introducing this machine. Where is it going to show up, in Act 3? But it just didn't follow. I didn't get that transformation of her character to this, the badass hunting the alien down in the hallways.
Well, and her years of engineering education that were displayed on screen in her opening and closing a door on a truck.
Yeah.
Like that was not the sort of emotional weight that I sort of hoped for.
Here's the interesting thing. We're talking about the four most memorable characters that we've named. You've got Michael Fassbender, you've got Catherine Waterston, you got Billy Crudup, and Danny McBride, who are enjoyable in their, in certain ways, but still they're not working together. They're memorable because I think we spend more time with them, but there's still issues with these characters. I mean, Danny McBride is Tennessee, who's, worried about his wife and is going to take the ship, their lifeline to survival. He's going to take it into the storm to risk everybody.
That was dumb.
Even all
that was another idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of that's sort of what we get with the crew, right? It was generally over emotional, and I think it was just amped up. My sense of it is all of this is amped up because this is a Noah's Ark story, right? We have to be in pairs, and what happens when we're not in pairs is tragedy, and we're going to amp that up to 11 because of that's what we need to do to show it on screen. And I wasn't crazy about that either. That whole sequence of him and them trying to talk him out of it was just ridiculous.
Speaking just to characters and to the story and just kind of everything, I just feel like, I mean, if you look at there were a couple things that happened in this that just really threw me into this headspace, thinking about how Ridley Scott tells films and how he told Alien and how patient he was telling the story in that particular film. I mean, just the opening, you get those really slow tracking shots through the ship. You see it kind of waking up. You see the bird dipper thing that's dipping its beak in the water. All that sort of stuff. And everything has this beautiful pace and everything. And it's just like now he's just given up on all of that sort of, patience that he used to exhibit in his films. And I mean, he has similar shots in this one. I mean, you're zipping through the hallways and stuff and you see the little bird and everything, but everything feels like it's on fast forward. It's just moving so fast. The cuts are fast. I'm like,
did you notice?
I feel like he felt that way. He treated his characters that way. Everything he just treated that way. Let's just cram it all in there and just move on through.
There was a signal there, Andy. Did you notice how fast the Alien Covenant titles bars faded in?
Oh, yeah.
Like in the movie Alien, that was incredibly slow. And I'm watching this thinking, wow, why does he just doesn't want us to enjoy this? Like it was a beautiful spacescape, build some intensity here. But it just rushed through. They just boom, 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 boom. Oh, look, Alien Covenant. I felt like I was watching a Star Trek movie.
Exactly. That was what the same thought went through my head. It's so funny.
Well, he's got a lot of places to take us. I mean, we've got our little prologue that we're on the ship. We're on the Covenant, then we're on the planet, then we're in the Prometheus, and then we're in the big, engineer city, and then back. So we're in so many places. There's so much story. As we said, we're trying to cram it all in there. So yeah, it feels rushed. But thinking about all those places, all those settings, let's talk about the cinematography, about the look and feel of this film, because it's interesting that we have, I think, perhaps one of the first times we have the alien outside in daylight, because usually it's like dark corridors, or, in Alien 3, it's, the prison planet and the hallways. Here, it's like they're running around outside in fields, the little neomorphs. We've got the xenomorph, the fight outside the ship, like in daylight. It's a different look and feel for this type of film because it was much lighter. We have moments of darkness, but when they're in the fields, it almost reminded me like Jurassic Park, 2 or something, where it's like we've got our crew tromping through the jungle, discovering, weird creatures. It had a different feel to it. So, I mean, is that look sort of appropriate for the franchise, or is it giving us something again that we're not wanting out of this?
I think that's exactly it. I think that it's the split. It's this, bastardized version of this story, of these two stories that don't blend well together. I mean, same thing with Prometheus. I think the look of this one definitely fit with Prometheus, but I think everyone was kind of wanting that alien story to really start coming back to the forefront. And, by the time we're getting chases through the dark hallways in the ship, it just, it's not interesting anymore.
I love Dariusz Wolski's work as cinematographer, and I was a big fan of The Martian, and if people ask me what do I think of Prometheus, I always start with the first 5 minutes. Like it is gorgeous. The way he treats and captures nature and the whole dissolution of the engineer into the waterfall. I mean, I just find it a beautiful experience to watch. And like you say, Andy, it doesn't fit with the expectation. And I think my challenge is that everything is so clean. I mean, this goes to production design and the general effects and the whole sort of experience of watching the film. Everything's really stays pretty clean, and they make incredibly poor use of darkness. Like, yeah, there's some dark stuff. Caves are dark because we expect them to be dark, but there is no point where they use darkness as a way to amp up the scare, the thrill, the sinister nature of the experience we're going through. It just feels like, like you say, Steve, we see the alien so much out in the open, and I find that incredibly challenging. I did not like it. I think it pulls away from the aesthetic that allows me to engage in something scary. Particularly the last run across the courtyard, where the full-grown alien is galloping toward the loading skiff. It was comically ridiculous.
It was something I discussed with my brother. Sort of the CGI and again the cleanness that you get on a digital effect versus when you're working practical effects. And we talk about sort of the iconic chest burster. In the original one, you see it emerge from the chest, and then it quickly dashes across. And here it's got this like stretching its limbs out, and it's so clean. It's like you could see the skin is sort of translucent, and it's got like metallic or silver, skeletal structure, but it's not covered in, guts and goo and blood. It sort of just emerges and is like celebrating itself, arms upraised. And I thought, what is that doing? That's not how these things are supposed to behave. And then the face huggers too, they worked well, practical effects in Alien and Aliens. And I think when the one scene where the two guys are going down and it sort of scurries up the steps and it latches on, they pry it off his face and the ass is eating through. There were moments where I was like, you've done the practical ones before. They look good. Why are you giving us, CGI ones scurrying across, walls or whatever? It just didn't, it wasn't necessary because we're willing to accept what we've seen before.
The thing that I didn't like about it is, first of all, I think they showed us the alien too many times. And, in the original film, even in Aliens, when they are born and they scurry off, we don't see them for a while. And so when they grow, we just are left with that lingering thing in the back of our heads, like, hey, these things grow pretty fast. But they showed us this full, like, shaped alien bursting out of the chest. And the number of times we keep coming back to that alien, we come back to it so many times that it starts to get confusing. Like, how many aliens are we chasing here, or are hunting us? It starts to look just ridiculous. I'm totally with you. Because they didn't change the form of the alien, it came out of the chest sort of fully shaped.
Yeah.
Counter to when it bursts out in Alien, it comes out as kind of a squiggly, kind of squiddy monster, right? Yeah. With the head, but it's mostly just a tail, and it's like more of a larva, and it scoots off into the bar. I think it ends up, it was a terrible choice for the design of the character to give us the fully shaped alien so early, coming right out of the chest. I thought it looked really silly,
especially if this is supposed to be a prequel and leading to that. I mean, the evolution of it, or I shouldn't say the evolution, but the metamorphosis of it once the face hugger latches on, all the way through the full adult size xenomorph. I mean, it was happening in less than an hour? Like, I don't know how quickly it was going. And by the time you get to Alien, I mean, it's much slower. I mean, the face hugger seems to be on for
days,
hours, if not days, right?
Yeah.
And then
here it's like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
it's
like
that. Yeah.
And then in Alien, remember, they're walking around the hallways and they find like a shedded piece of skin, as if it's actually growing and shedding. And I mean, it made sense. Yeah. Now all of a sudden it's like, what is this thing doing? Why is it full sized all of a sudden? I mean, it's just nonsense.
I will say it to that point, when you step away from the actual alien creature and go back to the spores that were earlier in the film, as they kind of tripped over the little spores and they kind of flew around in the air and went into his ear. I thought that was really compelling, and I wanted to see more about about this alien as kind of a virus. I thought that was really cool, but they like everything else in this film, they jammed that intensity right in a microwave, and and just played it fast forward. So here we go. Within a couple of minutes, now we've got violent acne bursting on that guy's back, and he's like, they're coming apart. And now they're full-grown alien creatures in the course of about 10 minutes. And it takes all of the kind of satisfying, like, jump and chill factor right out of the scene.
But I did like
crazy.
the design of those. What emerging out of the back, the spikes, and then sort of flopping on the ground there, and we see two of them. The design of the sort of albino neo xenomorphs I thought was really interesting. The spores we have on the planet, and the fact that the crew comments that there's no like animals, I'm thinking, okay, and we see that David's been experimenting. When they set off that homing beacon, I thought like tons of them were going to come out of the forest or whatever, because he's been experimenting on, we see various, iterations of this. And if these spores are out there, I thought, where are the rest of them? That over the past 10 years, he, because he apparently, he fires off that, whatever flare or whatever that scares them away. And at first I'm thinking, oh, okay, he's been here. He's, knows how to defend himself against these things and scare them off. So I'm expecting, he's in his fortress, like, and there's, roaming, hordes of these things out there. But we have the two that emerged from the crew, and then the one from in the basement there, and that's it. I'm like, well, then what happened to all the animals?
Especially if you look at like one of the posters for this, it looks like this really interesting image of just like a wall of aliens. I mean, it's just this really creepy image that it leads to kind of thinking that there are going to be a lot more of these things running around. I mean, going back to the viruses and that, I really did like that as an idea, and I do like the idea of these kind of being this virus. And I mean, you even get some of that in Alien 3, where it goes onto a dog and you get a much more dog-like alien.
Right.
I think that's a really interesting element, and I loved that they had kind of. I don't know if they devolved to, since there was no more life on the planet, they basically devolved to, well, we're just going to be spores because that's, all that we really can do now. And then as they kind of spread, they kind of evolve into other things. It is really interesting stuff, but again, just misused and used too quickly in so many ways.
See, that is a movie I would watch, though, and it's a perfect movie
absolutely.
for a big cast, right? You get rid of the fully grown aliens, and let's instead talk about, Alien as this virus that destroys, and we can watch these people come apart over the course of 2 hours. I would be really interested in that. And this is the perfect time, culturally resonant, to have that kind of a movie. Instead, it just went. I wish more than anything else that I could go back in time before I knew what the damn fully grown alien looked like. Now that I know what it looks like, it's just silly. It's just silly. The head is the most interesting thing on it, the head and the tail. And Alien was a movie that absolutely capitalized on not showing me all of the alien and showing it in such a dark and obscured way that I never quite got my head around. Now I know what the fully grown thing looks like. Show me something new.
Absolutely.
I yield my time.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about, movies and themes in the scores. And so I've been listening to the score for this one, and actually I've been enjoying it. I don't have as good an ear as Andy to identify, themes, and I haven't listened back to, I don't recall, there's not like an iconic alien, theme to the movies, but I did appreciate in this one, and I think it was sort of playing to, the musical instruments that David has created. There's a lot of, wind instruments throughout the score that add sort of creepy otherworld atmosphere, but I thought tied into, hit that scene between David and Walter, showing him, how to play a musical instrument, how to create something. And so I thought that worked well. It other than that, listening to it, I'm like, oh, wow, I really enjoy this, but I can't peg it to any specific scenes or like, oh, this, this moment really music played really well to that, other than, of course, we've got the Wagner, as David enters into where, he's going to do his work with his, new little alien embryos. I don't know if there was anything else that you may have noticed about the score.
Well, Jed Kurzel did the score, and he's, I believe, an Australian composer and just musician who recently did The Babadook and Slow West and Assassin's Creed, also with Fassbender. an interesting choice. He actually ended up replacing Harry Gregson Williams, a recent Speakeasy guest, who had been working with Ridley Scott a little bit more recently. What I enjoyed about it is that there was more integration with music from some of the other films. Jerry Goldsmith's theme from Alien comes in quite a number of times, which was really nice to hear. Also, he pulled some of the themes from Prometheus, which I did like. I liked that everything was kind of blending together. The thing that frustrated me the most about that is there's a beautiful theme that Mark Streitenfeld wrote for Prometheus that this frustrates me so much in movies, and I don't understand the logic, because David, on his little wind instrument, he's playing the theme that Mark Streitenfeld wrote for Prometheus.
I know.
What, did David pull up the score from the movie and listen to it to play it? It's like,
it's so ridiculous.
That's shot.
I have a tin ear. I didn't even catch that. So
listen to
okay.
I think on the Prometheus soundtrack, it's the opening.
You know, that's pretty common. I guess you guys don't remember when Dreyfus was out on the boat singing da-dum, 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 da-ga-da, da-ga-da, da-ga-da. No, it happens all the time.
No, it happens, but it's an illogical thing, and it's just stupid when people do that. I don't understand.
Really
the logic.
stupid. Yeah.
One last thing that I was thinking about, it was really interesting that they started introducing some of Jerry Goldsmith's themes, because this is kind of a prequel and it's leading up to it, and we get more of the alien and the creation and everything. But I was wondering, when John Williams went back to do the prequels, I mean, he found really interesting ways to take themes and kind of develop them in a backward way so that he could kind of build them into the themes in episodes 4, 5, and 6. I really liked that. I didn't quite get that here, and that was one thing that I was hoping I'd hear a little bit more of once I started hearing some of Jerry Goldsmith's themes. Was is there going to be a way that he's going to take that and kind of evolve it in a way where it'll kind of continue developing into what we're going to know as the. But I didn't catch that, and that was something. As much as I enjoyed hearing those themes, I was a little disappointed that I didn't hear that.
The same thing can be said for a little bit more blatantly. I think Michael Giacchino has kind of an ear for that sort of thing and has worked on a lot of these prequel-ish films, and I really like it. And I wish I was thinking the same thing, Andy. I really did. But to your point, I think he did a really fair job, Kurzel, at making this sound like an Alien score.
I do agree with you.
I went Friday night, 7:00, and the theater was like half full, which surprised me because it's an Alien movie and it should be drawing in big crowds, I would hope, or maybe Prometheus killed off, a lot of the interest in this. How was it where you saw it?
I saw IMAX. I just saw it today, kind of Sunday afternoon. It was really sparse. I was really surprised at how thin the crowd was. But I don't know. I wasn't sure what to expect. I kept hearing that there were a lot of it was doing really well, that it had kind of eked out ahead of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But I don't know. It didn't seem that way when I saw it at the theater.
Gosh, I guess I'm the counterexample. I went at 10:00 on a Friday morning, opening day here in the States, and the theater I hit was it wasn't 3D, it wasn't IMAX, it was the Regal premiere experience, right? The RPX, and it was they had renovated it, so it's hard to say. Like, it looked really full, but all the seats are the big recliners now.
Okay.
So there are only 3 back rows of this in the entire theater, and then you have the big split, and you have like 5 front rows. All the back rows were full. Friday 10 a.m. And I would say, just rough estimate, that the front, 5 rows were probably a third full, which is a lot for a 10 a.m. Friday morning, even opening weekend. That surprised me.
That's the diehard fans that wanted to make sure they saw it early. Okay.
Or were too scared to see it late at night.
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole other category.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the title, because we it's Alien Covenant, and we had Prometheus, and I think there people made a lot out of what that title meant, and Wayland's quest to steal immortality from the gods and all that, and here it's Alien Covenant. What the heck does that mean? Why that title?
Well, I mean, I was looking up on the web as far as the definition. And there's I mean, the basic definition is an agreement usually formal between two or more persons to do or not do something specified. But there is a biblical also a definition. The conditional promises made to humanity by God, as revealed in Scripture. So I was like, okay, so again, maybe it's just Scott kind of hitting us over the head a little too obviously with his references for these kind of religious or this connection between humanity and its creator, as far as what he's trying to say here. I don't know. I'm not sure we need these titles. I'm sure he could come up with something else, but
Alien Ark of the Covenant, it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out if it's the agreement between David and his creator about fulfilling this quest to find humanity's creator, but he strays from that by destroying the engineers. And then I thought, is it the agreement
between David as taking the role of taking the hand of creator, becoming the creator with his creation?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, but it's the name of the ship, so I'm like, the Covenant. So that's, what, people on Earth named that ship. So it's what their agreement to go forth and, colonize a planet. They've made this agreement to fulfill their mission.
It is an arc, after all. I mean, it is.
Yeah, it is. I think trying to strive for something and giving people not what they wanted, or falling short of clearly communicating what you're trying to do.
Yeah, this is one of those that I feel like, after we saw Prometheus, we did Prometheus. After people chewed on it for a while, there were some theories that came out that were super relevant and resonant and made a lot of sense. And I feel like this is one of those movies that I'll probably chew on. Bottom line, I mean, I liked it more than Prometheus. There was enough going on that I was entertained by, that I liked it more than that which spawned it. And so, I'm not saying I'm gonna rush out and see it again in the theater, but
but you'll rush out and see the next one that Ridley Scott has stated he's got ready to go.
Only if we do a show on it will I rush. I'll see it, but
he hasn't lured you in saying, well, look, Prometheus was okay. This next one is better, so the next one.
No, I still call this. I feel like he has broken his covenant with the people. His covenant. To me, I mean, really, he's certainly broken it with me. This is not like he's clearly has a different interest in the kind of movies he wants to make in this universe that I feel like I don't need to rush out and be a part of it. I am just fine, kind of sitting back and watching this. I wanted it to be a return to form for the series, and I think it's more pornography than art. I mean, it is more the visual spectacle than the cultural statement.
Absolutely. It just he is trying to get some big ideas and big themes into these, and it's just not the series to do it. He really should just find something else to get his ideas out, because I feel like he's taking a franchise and just hurting the overall franchise. I mean, I guess it already had the Alien versus Predator injuries to it, and there were plenty of other
do you know what though
iterations.
Do you guys include those when you say the Alien movies? Do you include AVP?
No.
I don't at all. They don't even enter my mind.
No.
But clearly they were films that, I mean, honestly, they were just designed to be pure fun. It was like, let's get these two. It's like Freddy versus Jason.
Yes.
It's silly nonsense, but no, it's just being cheeky. But still, Alien Resurrection already was problematic. There have been issues with the franchise. I keep feeling like Ridley Scott's an interesting person. I mean, he started the series and he's made a lot of interesting films. It'd be great to get him back in here. And now that he is, I'm like, gosh, now I kind of regret having wished that.
This would be a great series to start bringing in some other new talent.
Yes.
This would be a great series for that.
The other thing we have to come back to is this the right sort of medium for this? Is it, theatrical release, or is he trying to get something larger that perhaps fits into like a series? Instead of trying to cram all this story into 2 hours, is this something, give it some room to breathe, expand the universe, that now that, streaming series and cable series give, room for that, and audiences are willing to show up to those things and, big numbers when it's quality stuff. I mean, maybe that's, the decision, filmmakers have to start considering is this a story that can be told in 120 minutes, or is this a bigger story that to give the characters in this world the time that it needs to break it into like a 10-hour series, throw it up on Hulu or Netflix, Amazon, something like that to give the story the room perhaps that they want to tell. They need that breathing room for that big of a story rather than just cramming everything into a 2-hour contrived mess.
Yeah, that's a really good point,
Steve.
Steve. I think that's I would watch that show. How about that?
Andy, how did it do? You said it sounded like it was going to beat out Guardians this weekend. Is that?
That's what I had heard. It's always just a prognostication.
Yeah.
Who really knows? But it had a production budget of like $97 million. I think I read that it was like a total spent was close to twice that. As of today, it's made $36 million in the U.S. and almost $82 million everywhere else. So since it's opened, it started opening May 4th, I think, over in London, and it's made as of today about $120 million. So it's likely going to make its money back, and Ridley will be making another one of these soon.
All right. Well, I guess the only thing left to do with this thing is to crack it open and rank it.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
So we want to everybody head over to flickchart.com/TNR Film Board for our rankings of all our Film Board films. Let's see where this one shows up.
All right. First up, it's an interesting one.
I know.
Alien Covenant or The Circle.
That's hilarious because that's where, when I went to rank it on my own chart, that's the first thing that came up as well. Yes, so I know where you're going to go. I have a feeling.
Do you?
I think so, because you were really angry last month.
I know, and I'm really angry this month.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
I am probably going to go Alien though.
Yeah.
Only because it's a franchise that I will watch. I'll rewatch it and I will shake my fist at it. Anyway,
I'm Alien Covenant as well. There are problems, but I think it's something that it didn't make me angry a lot. There's things where you can sit back and enjoy some moments, and it's one that falls flat but isn't horrible, but it's amusing and entertaining, and I'll probably watch it a few more times and hopefully discover some more things about it. So
there's no question, it's absolutely Alien. I have flashbacks of Tony Manero when I think about The Circle.
What?
I think about Tony Manero dropping a healthy number 2 on a suit when I think about The Circle, except it's The Circle.
Okay.
I just didn't want Alien Covenant to be in our top half, but I couldn't put it over.
You can't do that. Yeah.
All right, Alien Covenant or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Definitely apes for me.
Apes over aliens.
Apes over aliens, yes.
Wait do you see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes versus aliens? Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, waiting for that day, Pete. Waiting for that day. Okay, Alien Covenant or Looper?
Looper.
Okay.
I'm struggling with this one.
I've seen Looper twice, and I'm still like, it's all right. It's not. I wanted something that wowed me, and I'm like, it's all right. I could go either way on this one. I'm fine with that.
Alien Covenant or Snowden? Snowden.
Yeah, really? Are we there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think, I enjoyed Snowden.
It'd be a gentleman's win anyway. Okay, Snowden.
All right, Alien Covenant or Side Effects? Side Effects, please.
Side Effects.
Yeah, Side Effects. Yeah, okay. Because I think with Snowden Side Effects, it's clear that there's something that the movie's trying to tell us, and here we're still not clear what we're supposed to take away from this thing.
Well, this will be a fun one. Alien Covenant or The Finest Hours?
Oh, Alien Covenant. I will watch that. I have no desire to see The Finest Hours again.
You guys, I'm definitely Finest Hours. I think you guys are way too hard on it.
I would say Finest Hours also.
That's right, Andy.
Oh,
You'll watch The
Sorry.
Finest Hours like she did.
exactly.
I'll watch The Finest Hours just to have that thought run through my head.
You know, parenthetically, I have to say, it's not like Alien Covenant is immune from the Finest Hour isms. There was a lot where it just feels like Ridley Scott has said, you know what? I think since 1979, audiences have gotten so stupid that I'm practically going to give them a diagram of what's going to go on in the movie because I don't think they're going to get it. Alien was such a great film about showing us just what was on screen, and Covenant failed. They just tell us everything. I'm sorry.
He did give us diagrams. Remember, she unrolled them all on the table.
That's right. That's right. She did. She unrolled them all on the table.
Just like she did.
Well, that lands Alien Covenant at spot 29 out of 58. So it's now kind of right in that middle zone, smashed between The Finest Hours and The Circle.
Wow.
Yes.
We're going to see this again.
I have to see where this where Prometheus ended up on our chart. I'm very curious now. Let's see. Prometheus is number 40.
Oh wow!
So this landed 11 slots higher than Prometheus.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that feels about right.
I don't know.
Does not feel that right to you?
You know, I don't know. I ranked Prometheus 3.5 stars out of 5 last time, which I think is way too generous for that film.
Wow.
I think 2.5.
It's a 1.5 star for me.
2.5.
Whoa.
To 1, to 2 is where I'd put Prometheus now. And I think I'm being more right on the money with this one. And I'm just going to give this one a 1.5 right now.
Steve, you nailed it.
I did.
Really
I
did.
know.
I nailed that. Okay.
I was like, no way is he right. He totally was.
I'm with you. In fact, as we have been recording this, I've been changing my star rating because I'm really vacillating on this. It's been going up a half star and down a half star, down another half star, well, maybe back up a half star. I landed on a 2-star review for Alien Covenant, and again, that is an improvement over the 1.5 star for Prometheus. I did not like either of them.
I'm gonna give it 2.5. I mean, it's maybe on viewing it again, I might, if I find something more to it, it could push me up to a 3, or it could go down to 2. Because there are things that I did enjoy, but on reflection and coming back to see it on a second time, it may reveal more flaws. But I'll settle for the 2.5 for right now.
And is that a like, or is that a 2.5 but you liked it, or 2.5 but you don't like it?
Oh, it's 2.5, but I liked it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've got the no likes taking it on that one.
Yeah, I think so too.
For an average. Well, that gives us an average of 2 stars. 2 stars, no like.
2 stars, no like. That feels about right. Have you all posted your reviews on Letterboxd so that we can pass those around?
I haven't, but I will after the show. I've been holding off now because I don't want people to look until the show's out. So
no, I totally failed. I wrote a whole bunch of them yesterday, and I accidentally posted them without thinking, and now they're just up there. So I'm caught up. But
and it's out there on the internet. And
it's just out there. Yeah. So I posted it yesterday, but I'm going to hold off now from now on because Andy did. Steve, are you posting your reviews?
I have not. I should. It's one of those things that I can rank it, and that's easy, but the time to sit down and do that, and I keep coming back to I don't know that I want to revisit my my personal journal on films to realize I didn't know what I was talking about when I saw that movie the first time. Although it's intriguing, so I'm
that's what I have to say, Steve.
Yeah.
One of the things I like so much about Letterboxd is that every time you watch the movie, you get a chance to log and edit and create a new review.
Yeah,
and that has really changed my opinion because I'm feeling like I'm going to go forward and feel good about saying, okay, I watched again. I've changed my tune.
Yeah. Okay.
And I like that too, because like I said with Prometheus, I still have it at 3.5 stars, but I'm like, gosh, I really should rank that lower. But I'm like, well, hold off till I watch it again, and if so, then I'll make a note of that. But I like knowing that at least when I watched it, I thought it was a 3.5 star film. So I think there's a benefit.
Agreed.
All right.
Everybody else should do that too, and you should come find us on Letterboxd and share your reviews if you haven't, because that's the thing we're doing now.
It is.
You're here.
You're here.
So next up, what have you guys got coming up next on the main show?
We are right in the middle of our return to the Hayao Miyazaki series. We're going to be talking about Spirited Away. one of his most popular films, and just a couple more in that series, but we're enjoying it so far.
And I saw that on Slack, it led into an interesting discussion about subtitles that I had not expected, because I was trying to explain this to my brother. He said, "Well, how did this whole debate about subtitles?" I said, "I think it came from the Miyazaki series about watching it subtitled versus dubbed and people's preferences." And so it's interesting to see sort of how the discussion, how people have sided on the subtitled versus dubbed debate. So it's something that those people that are in that Slack group get to engage with us and debate. So which is, I find, very entertaining.
Absolutely.
If you too would like to debate subtitles versus dubbing, that sounds like a conversation only 3 people are interested in.
Come on.
Seriously, you guys, it's that good. Subtitles versus dubbing.
It's film nerd conversation.
It is film nerd.
It is.
It
Hey,
is.
I'm right at home. Right at home.
That's right.
And what do we have coming up? We've got we're going to be visiting Tom Cruise and The Mummy next month, if
That's
got
right.
my information correct. So
Yeah.
another monster movie, another attempt to scare JJ. So
Can't
And another
wait.
Tom Cruise movie. We'll see if we like it better than
Jack
Jack
Reacher.
Jack Reacher.
Yeah, whatever the.
We'll
thing
have to
was
see
called.
how much running he does in The Mummy. We'll have to see if it fulfills.
As far as I know, he
Our
just
desire.
spends most of his time crashing. This movie is about crashing.
There's a lot of.
Oh,
crashing
but
in the trailer.
Steve, you don't know about the trailers, I imagine. So trust me, it's
No.
crashing.
Oh, I did see the trailer without sound, so I did see that.
good.
version.
All right.
So that was yes.
Crashing.
So either you listen to it with your eyes closed, so you're hearing it with no pictures, or you're watching.
You're
with
watching
no
it with no sound. So, any last comments? Final thoughts.
I just wish that the return to the Alien franchise was what I wanted it to be. I just don't feel like we're getting it. Particularly with this film, I enjoyed the return to really having aliens in a film, but I just didn't get that actual movie that I wanted. I really wanted to see aliens, and something that reminded me of the films that we saw that from '79 and '86, just not this. And I like that he's pursuing some ideas that he's kind of thinking about, but I'd rather him do that in a different film.
So you're sounding like a grumpy old man. I want it like
I am.
back when I was a kid, not this new stuff.
This new fangled thinking.
There
Exactly.
should be no thinking in my horror movies. None. I'm with Andy. I'm disappointed because it just feels empty for my expectation. I recognize that's my expectation, and it's interesting as you look at the people behind the screenplay. John Logan in particular, he's up for the next for writing the next Bond film. I mean, there's just the team behind this has done some fantastic work in terms of screenwriting and have had some dogs, and I feel like I'm sad to say this feels like one of the dogs.
Well, out there in the vastness of space, no one can hear you scream in anguish of your frustration with Ridley Scott.
Even Ridley can't hear you scream.
That's
Exactly. So everyone, thank you for listening. Drop $1 for us on Patreon. You can get in on that subtitles versus dub debate. Give us a rating or review on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. And no matter if it's a question or a comment, we love hearing from you. So drop us a line, Twitter, Facebook. We're here for you.